Battery Bill. Battery Bill. For cameras, computers, cars, or scooters. For trucks, boats, jet skis, remotes. Battery Bill. Battery Bill.
All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome, episode 55 here on Hawaii Football Now. Big mahalo to Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill as well for sponsoring this episode of HFN. Jordan Helle, Hunter Hughes back with you, our guy Jaron on the controls as well. We record this Wednesday, about 9 a.m. Hawaii time. Set to release this tomorrow, September 15th, about midday, as the usual drop is for Hawaii Football Now, to get you recapped on last week's game and get you set up for this weekend's matchup against Duquesne as well. This episode of Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellnesses and sharing success with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, quick opening drive. Just wanted to tease, preview a fun interview we've got coming up for you in the second half. Our guy, Mark Veneri, rejoins the show, former co-host here on the pod, now current color guy, color analyst for the University of Hawaii, broadcast on ESPN Honolulu Radio and the Rainbow Warrior Radio Network, partner of Hunter Hughes on the radio broadcasts, of course, partnering with his brother John Veneri, who handles the play-by-play, co-host Pauhana with the Veneri brothers. He's coaching like youth football. He's doing all kinds of things. The man wears many hats. And one of them today was a fun little guest appearance here on the pod. So great to catch up with him. We'll probably do that throughout the season as he's handling, again, the game broadcast for us here on ESPN Honolulu. But always fun to get Mark on the line, Hunter. The guy knows his football and love to chop it up, especially we figured this was going to be a good week because he could tell us what the trip to the big house was like.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark's been a buddy for a long time. In fact, him and I were the first duo for Hawaii Football Now way back in the old COVID days. And so, yeah, it's only fitting that we have him on the show at one point. So stoked for you guys to hear our conversation with Mark later in the show.
Yeah, that's coming up in the second half. All right, let's get into the game time. Michigan 56, Hawaii 10. A little bit of a beatdown at the hands of the Wolverines, the number 4 team in the country. Not unexpected. Hawaii did cover as they closed as 53-point underdogs. Never in doubt. Never trailed via the spread. In fact, got a couple of second half scores, including a Tylen Hines touchdown run that got them in the end zone. Remember, the last time they played at Michigan did not score a touchdown in that 2016 meeting. So some positive to build on in the second half in particular that we'll get to here in just a second. It was just the 12th night game in the history of Michigan Stadium, which is kind of hard to believe. Officially the latest kickoff ever at the Big House for Michigan football due to an hour-long lightning delay before that. Wow. It was raining cats and dogs. They had to send the teams in, then they got warmed up, and then they ended up kicking that thing off, a little after 9 p.m., I think it was, local time there. So kind of cool, little trivia. That'll go in the trivia notes for Michigan football going forward. Joey Yellen got the start with Braden Shager injured. He goes the distance. We didn't see either of the other two designated backups, really, in Jake Farrell and Armani Eden. Much improved second half over the first two games, right? It had sort of been a first half, second half tale for Hawaii in the first two games against Vanderbilt and Western Kentucky. Kind of flipped the script a little bit here against Michigan, but I think very encouraging. The running game showed some flashes. Just diving into some of the quick numbers before we get your initial takeaways here, Hunter. Total offense, Michigan rolled 588 yards, a lot of that coming in the first half. Hawaii 253 yards total in offense. The Wolverines threw for 320, ran for 268. Hawaii just 113 yards through the air. That's 3.1 yards per attempt. That's abysmal. 8.7 yards per completion. They did run for 150 yards on 32 runs, 4.4 yards per carry against a Michigan defense that prides itself on being physical up front. I thought that was fairly positive there. A couple of other positives. One penalty for 10 yards. Hawaii. Remember, this is a week after they had 12 flags for 109 yards against Western Kentucky. Much better. No turnovers. A week after 6 last week, right? That was not good. The defense forced to take away +1 in the turnover differential this past weekend up in Ann Arbor. Joey Yellen goes 13 of 36, 113 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. We'll get into some of the other individual numbers here. But some of your initial takeaways, Hunter, of this experience in this performance for the Bows as they head up for their second ever trip to Michigan.
Yeah, perspective. We're playing the number 4 team in the entire country. They're going to be battling with Ohio State later in the year to try to take the Big Ten title and ultimately probably a berth in the college football playoff and trying to make a run at a national championship. So just wanted to add that in there. People might, okay, yeah, we get that, but no, let's like really dive into that for a second. Like, we scored 10 points on one of the best teams in the whole country at their stadium. It wasn't like we laid a goose egg. We did something. I think that's important in a rebuilding year to celebrate wins, however small they might be. Jordan, I thought the offensive line played fantastic. I felt like Il Manning showed up and was the Il Manning that we know he can be at left tackle. And yeah, I really like that you brought up the penalties, because something was communicated from Coach Timmy Chang and that staff to this team of expectations. What is to be expected playing for this, Hawaii football team. And we're not good enough to suffer, what was it, 10 penalties last week and still try to win a football game. We're not going to be able to be that team. So, and then on top of that, we ran the ball pretty effectively. Some might say it was against Michigan's twos, but hey, I don't care. We got one in the end zone. So I think there are some wins if you actually look to the stats of this game against Michigan.
Yeah, and I mean, to be perfectly candid, Michigan's twos are going to be ones at a lot of places around the country. And we'll get to the defense here in just a second, but that defense, especially early in the second half, played well after Cade McNamara came in. And Cade McNamara led that team to the college football playoff last year and is absolutely fighting for his job. So that wasn't some, throwaway second half, at least in the third quarter in particular. Some of the other individual standout numbers, or at least some of the totals here. Tylan Hines led the team in rushing, 8 carries, 75 yards, including that 54-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. Dedrick Parson, 12 carries, 28 yards, 2.3 yards per carry. That's the second week in a row he's been held under 3 yards per carry. We'll get into maybe some of the reasons why here in just a second. Did have a catch for 1 yard. Jordan Johnson, he, like Hines, another freshman, another guy that's kind of explosive, kind of nice. 5 rushes, 25 yards, showed some flashes. The 1 catch for 12 yards as well. And then you got Najee Bryant-Lily, who had 6 carries for 18 yards, the other kind of bruising between the tackles backs. James Phillips led all the receivers, 3 catches, 33 yards. Chucky Hines had 3 catches for 14 yards. Jordan Murray, 2 for 15. Jonah Pinoke, 2 for 17. Grayson Morgan, 1 for 21. That 21-yard catch, the longest pass play of the night. A lack of explosiveness in the passing game, I think, is an area of concern. No catches for Jalen Waltall after a nice week last week, 4 receptions. No catches as well for either Tamatoa Mokiao, Ati Malala, or Dior Scott in this one. What'd you see from the rest of the offense here, Hunter? You mentioned the offensive line played really well. I would agree there. I thought it was a nice bounce back after a game against Western Kentucky where I thought they played one of their worst games we've seen in the last couple of years. They played really well, just 1 sack, 2 other quarterback hits, again, in 37 pass attempts. And then they ran the ball very nicely, especially with those 2 freshmen. Just not a whole lot of explosiveness with this offense, particularly in the passing game. But what did you see out there from the rest of the unit as a whole?
Jordan, did we have any fumbles? I can't recall. Did we?
One. I think there was one.
Okay, and then did we recover?
I'll go back and look at the stats here as you go through it. But I thought
That's
we
the.
fumbled one time. But anyway, yeah, we didn't lose anything.
I mean, that's the tail of the tape for me right there. With everything that's gone down with the Vanderbilt game, and then obviously Western Kentucky, that was probably the main ingredient with why we suffered the way that we did against Western Kentucky, was not being able to hang on to the football. Say what you will about Joey Yellen, he only has one pick on the season. So we're holding on to the football and giving ourselves chances. We shoot ourselves in the foot anytime we give the ball over. So again, from a receiver core standpoint, it looks like it's not necessarily predicated on one guy's performance. We get a lot of guys in there, a lot of guys the football. I think we had 10 different receivers last week getting the ball, and then obviously it's a little less this time, but a lot of guys can go in there and make plays. So it's almost like we're kind of mixing up the concoction of what our offense is still going to be. Mark mentions it in our conversation later about what our identity as an offense is still yet to be kind of determined. But it shows that a lot of guys are willing to go in there and put their skills to the test to try to make us better.
Yeah, no fumbles. Michigan had the one fumble that they recovered. That was forced by Kalano McCullough. I think that was the one I was thinking of there. Yeah. We get into some of these details with the running game, and something that I think we'll bring up with Mark as well in the second half here. The lack of explosive plays in the run game. I mean, in the pass game. Yeah. It's kind of allowed teams to really focus on the run, right? Najee Bryant, Lele, Dedrick Parson, who had gotten the lion's share of the carries through the first two games, between the tackle runners, not necessarily guys that are going to break things outside. And then there's no perimeter threat from the quarterback position as well. And so we've seen a lot of, Western Kentucky last week, Michigan this week, just really focus on kind of bottling things up, really focusing on the run game. Without the threat of an outside run game, without the threat of an outside pass game, it's been tough sledding. In 2 weeks in a row now, Dedrick Parson has been bottled up less than 3 yards per carry. And that's, a little uncharacteristic, right? What we saw last year in his first year with the program, especially filling in for Day Hunter. He was good, man. He was tough. He was tough between the tackles. But he was often playing with Chevin Cordero, with some of these other guys that could kind of help make the field a little wider to defend, if you will. But I loved what I saw from Tylan Hines and Jordan Johnson. Those two guys coming in. Johnson, he runs a little high, but man, he's explosive. Tylan Hines is scoot, man. That guy can scoot. You saw it. There's a different gear when they get the football, and that's just a different element to defend. And you saw it when he scored that touchdown, right? A little inside zone, one cut, bounce it outside, and then bang, he's gone, right? He got the perimeter on Michigan athletes. And again, second, third string guys, but those guys aren't unathletic, let me tell you, when they're out there. And he turned the corner quite nicely. And I just thought things opened up a little bit more. And I think that will be super beneficial for even Parson and Bryant in what they're trying to do with the run game and keeping things between the tackles. But, I thought we saw some flashes in the first couple of games, but especially in this Michigan game, I think we need to see more of Hines and Johnson.
Yeah. What people don't understand with a great passing attack is the foundation of a great running attack. The running game will open up the pass game for what it does to those linebackers in that secondary. So for us to be a team that we all want it to be, where we're putting the ball down the field and scoring a lot of points, we have to establish it first with the run game. That's just how football works. I would love to see us incorporate our running back core a little bit more into the passing game. They've shown their ability to, catch screen passes and be used in the flats right there, and not just keep them back there as pass pro or pass protection, I should say, but incorporate them a little bit more into what we're doing from a passing standpoint too, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think getting those guys some touches, and we've seen Parson catch a lot of balls in the past.
Yeah.
I think with guys like Hines and Johnson, and we saw Johnson catch a pass, 12 yards against Michigan. I think that could bode very well. Just more speed, more explosiveness. Just get it on the field, right? Get it on the field, and usually good things happen. And so we'll see what this offense, maybe some tweaks. We saw some shuffling in the depth chart that was released earlier this week as well. A little bit on the offensive line, I think, due to health. And then maybe at the receiver core as well, right? We see Tamatoa Mokiao Atimalala make an appearance on the depth chart. So we'll see if maybe he gets a little more run. Defensively, I think is where we have seen some strides, some significant strides from week 0 to week 1, from week 1 to week 2. I think this unit is getting better. And look, you can point to the first half when Roman Wilson was just running, relay races beyond our defense. But look, there aren't a whole lot of Roman Wilsons out there in the country. The Kihei boy, St. Louis graduate. This is a defense that had 2 sacks, their first 2 of the year, both from interior guys in John Tuitupo and Blessman Ta'ala. They had the takeaway, right? Yep. They held Michigan to 2 scoring drives in the second half after 3 stops to start the third quarter, which I thought was really impressive, considering especially the way that the second halves have gone for the defense and the way that, Michigan was kind of at will attacking that defense in the first half. But Pavihi once again leads the team in tackles. He had 6. Verdell Edwards had the pick. He had 5 tackles. I thought he had a good game. Jojo Forrest, Leonard Lee, 5 tackles each. Matangi Thompson, 4 tackles. And then we mentioned the sacks, 1 each from Tuitupo and Blessman Ta'ala. We saw some other guys in the mix that I think we saw some sprinkling the last couple of weeks, maybe some potential to see more. Kalana Makala had 2 tackles, forced fumble. I broke up a pass. Peter Manuma got in there. He had a couple of tackles. So did Wyndon Ho'ohuli. We see Noah Kamana elevated to the top of the depth chart at one of the safety positions going into this week as well. And remember, the first 2 games, I should say, Hawaii was outscored 70-7 in the second half.
Yeah.
Michigan 14-10 in this second half, right? And again, you're looking for silver linings. You're looking for progress. Nobody expected this team to go in there and compete in terms of, really threatening Michigan. That would have been Disney Channel movie type stuff. Yeah. But the fact that second half played out the way it did, right? 5 second half drives for Hawaii on defense. We'll focus on defense here. 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt, 2 plays pick. Those were the first 3 possessions of the second half. Yeah, they gave up a 5-play 91-yard touchdown drive and then an 8-play 65-yard touchdown drive. The final 2 possessions of the half, I think we saw some fatigue at that point. But again, those first 3 drives, Cade McNamara was a quarterback. He's the guy that started the opener, started all season last year, is fighting tooth and nail for his job. So you can't go out there and say that unit wasn't out there trying to play. They very much were. And Hawaii, 2 3-and-outs, and then the pick. I was thoroughly impressed with what they were doing in some of the adjustments and just kind of the want to. And I think there's a lot there that can be parlayed forward.
Yeah, it's not just how the team came out and responded, but it shows this coaching staff's ability to make adjustments in the second half. That's been one thing that we've been kind of concerned with, I would say, with the way that we've come back in the second half against Vandy and then against Western Kentucky. But against this Michigan team, I mean, we came out ready to play, and winning the turnover margin against a school like Michigan is a huge win, Jordan, huge win. Yeah, that's something that I would be telling this defense over and over again, is you guys are the backbone of this team right now. We all know this is kind of a building year for this offense, for the team in general, but mainly this offense. And we're kind of reliant on the defense's ability to control field position and control the football right now. So if they can continue to go out there, win turnovers for this team, it would put us in a good position to try to squeak out a couple of wins heading off into the rest of this year.
Yeah, that's kind of the big thing, right? The next 2 weeks will tell us as much about the state of the program as any point, I think, throughout the first half of the season, because these 3 opponents, a little different caliber than Duquesne and New Mexico State. And I'm not saying those aren't dangerous opponents for Hawaii, because I think, we'll get into the Dukes here a little bit later in the pod, but like it's much more an opportunity for Hawaii to really kind of focus on, hey, what kind of strides have we made going forward. And even offensively, there were some missed opportunities, but in the second half, they basically had 5 drives as well. Michigan had 6 total drives. Their last one was they just ran out the clock to finish the game. But really 5 meaningful drives. We covered that from the defensive standpoint. And then from the offensive standpoint, Hawaii, a little bit of a mixed bag, but we saw some positives, right? The 3-and-out punt to start the half. Then they go 12 plays, settle for a field goal after getting down inside the 20-yard line. A really good drive there. They went 4 plays and a punt. Then they went 6 plays in the Tylen Hines touchdown run, and then a 14-play, 73-yard drive. That was pretty darn impressive. And they missed Dior Scott on a nice little seam route that he had beaten, I think, a blitzing linebacker or something like maybe a rolled coverage, but he was open. And Yellen kind of thrown off the back foot, I thought didn't need to put it behind him. But if he hit Scott in stride, he probably scores. There was a safety kind of coming over from the middle of the field, but it was a real golden opportunity at the very least to get, first and goal. And I know they ended up making it to the 2-yard line, and a 14-play, 73-yard drive that ends on 4th and goal. There's some positives to take out of there as well. Maybe in a different ballgame, they settle for a field goal. You get 3 scoring drives in 5 second half possessions against Michigan. You'll take that. So, yeah, I was just after the first half. Yeah, I think you could be doom and gloom, but after the second half, man, I just thought there were a lot of positives. I thought the kicking game was improved. Yeah. I thought Shipley's punts were terrific. Had Michigan starting inside their own 15, 5 different times, made them drive the field. Kyler Halverson was his usual self and just booming kickoffs, and obviously Shipley 1 for 1 on the field goals. And it's kind of nice to see the special teams be solid once again for this group. Hasn't necessarily been a game changer just yet, but it has been very solid. And I just think overall that second half from a defensive standpoint in particular, but even from the offense, those 3 positive drives, 2 of them resulting in scores. If that's the last taste in your mouth from leaving Michigan, that's not a bad place to be.
Oh, totally. And there are so many similarities to me between this team and the 2016 Rainbow Warrior ball club. I look at what we had inherited from the Chow, administration, and we had Rigo Sanchez, who was one of the nation's top place kickers at the time, and obviously a punter now with the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that Shipley will probably get a chance at the next level. I just feel like he's that caliber of either a kicker or a punter. I'm glad he was back to kind of doing his thing in this Michigan game. And we started off very similar in 2016, and then we're able to kind of battle back to a bowl berth with an at-large kind of decision. We went to a bowl game, Jordan, at I think we were only a 6-win team at that time.
Yeah.
So, people are always going to talk, but I think there are plenty of things to continue to ooze out positivity from our perspective on what to expect, as well as there's still plenty of football and plenty of games to be played. That this year is not a wash yet. A lot can happen in conference. So that's kind of my MO right now at 3 games into the year.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing to keep in mind, right? And we knew it was going to be a process. Are there things to be legitimately critical of? Yeah, I think the offense has to be better, right? The quarterback play has to be better. The passing game has to be better. You'd like to be able to take care of the football a little bit more, which I think they did in this game. You'd like to be able to take the football away a little bit more. I think it's only 2 through 3 games that can be improved. But the chatter of, hey, there's letters of the editor in the paper saying that like UH football just give up Division I football already. Probably a little premature. The fact that they've gone to bowl games like 3 out of the last 4 seasons.
Let me say,
And sorry, Hunter, just real quickly, look, in 2 weeks, if they've fallen completely flat against Duquesne and New Mexico State, I think then that's more of a conversation to be had. But at this point, it's a little early to be just kind of burning the ship down. Sorry, Hunter, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I wanted to say, in contrast to that 2016 team, all of the senior or, upperclassmen standouts that we acquired from the Norm Chow era we essentially did not get from the Todd Graham era. Our quarterback went to San Jose State. Good chance he's going to get an opportunity at the next level in Chevin Cordero. Darius Muasau, our stud middle linebacker, is at UCLA right now. Our stud outside receiver, Nick Mardner, is at Cincinnati now via the transfer portal. Jordan Loalu went to Oklahoma. I mean, we had a serious team this past year. You know, the name of the tape for this year was, we're doing what we can because of what transfer portal did to this club. So we have to continue to put that out there for people to understand that this is not just on Coach Timmy Chang. This is not just on this coaching staff or this team right now. We're doing our best with what we have at this very moment.
Yeah, and that's why I think, you know, it's fair to say that these next 2 weeks, that's kind of a real good barometer, right? The Duquesne and New Mexico State, these are games that, regardless of what the situation is, the influx, the outflux, the coaching change, like, these are 2 games you gotta go take care of, much more so than some of the other ones where we're maybe punching above your weight class. So we'll see how that all plays out. All right, time for the halftime break. We'll be back with the Mark Veneri interview, and we'll preview Duquesne a little bit as well, as the Dukes come to town this weekend to take on Hawaii at Ching Complex. All right, halftime, second half coming up.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, back with you second half here. Jordan Helle, Hunter Hughes on Hawaii Football Now, episode 55. Without further ado, our guy Mark Veneri in our interview, which we recorded just a little while ago right here on HFN. All right, joining us now, our good buddy, the current color guy for University of Hawaii broadcast right here on ESPN Honolulu, and a guy who's very familiar sort of in this virtual seat and very familiar with the Hawaii Football Now podcast, our guy, Mark Veneri. Mark, what's up, my man?
What's up, Jordan? What's up, Hunter? How you guys doing?
We're good, man. We're good. This is probably a little long overdue, but we appreciate you jumping on with us, getting up early. We know you got all kinds of responsibilities, coaching and parenting and getting ready for the weekend's broadcasts, plural usually for you, as we go through this. But with all of those balls that you've been juggling, you know, what's the new role been like, kind of sliding over into the booth and taking over the color duties for UH football?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think play-by-play, one of the things with play-by-play is you got to just call it like you see it with everything with, hey, here's a play, here's how it's, you know, set the situation. But one of the things I absolutely love about being the color guy is kind of, I'm actually, no one really knows this. And I think I told Hunter this maybe a couple of times, but I'm actually a film room junkie. Like, I love to watch film. I love the intricacies of defenses and how offenses are running. So just being the color guy and describing it to our listeners has been fun because you can see everything. Now you're just concentrating on what a defense is doing or what an offense is doing. And that's kind of the joy I have in, you know, being the color guys, because it's kind of one of my passions to begin with, is describing what's going on the field and giving a little color, so to say, to our listeners. So it's been fun, man. I absolutely enjoy it.
No, I think that's great perspective, because it is, it's a partnership, but it's such a uniquely different role in terms of, you know, what seat you're in. And that's kind of the fun thing, I think, as you point out, you get you don't have to always follow the ball, right? You can see some of the other things that are happening, you know, maybe away from the play or different positions like that. And then the other fun aspect, I'm sure, is working with your brother John on the broadcast. And I think it's been a really fun dynamic when I've been able to listen in, and I know you guys are enjoying it, but what's it been like, man? What's it been like sliding over and calling these games next to your bro?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like a dream come true, I guess you could say. I'm not ashamed of this. And John gave me the smile, right before broadcast. I had a little emotional moment. Like, you never dream of, picture yourself being in the big house, broadcasting, something as big of magnitude type of game. So, I slid in right before we went on air, and, I had myself a moment because, not many people know, this is something that we dreamed about, maybe not a thought about, but when I stepped into, my journalism degree and, getting into journalism, and John has already been, doing it for quite some time. It's like, hey man, what if we get a chance to do this one day together? be the first brother broadcast, not just locally, but it's a national thing. If I understand, Western Kentucky, Michigan mentioned it, and it's something cool that, someone that I've looked up to, my whole life as a mentor and as somebody that, I call not only my brother, but one of my best friends, so it's just, having him next to me, having the confidence, and we're still learning each other as our dynamic is growing, because he's the play-by-play, I'm the color, and just trying to fit where we fit in. And I think it's kind of been seamless at this point. The best part of it is, we kind of find ourselves on calls like, all right, who's right in this situation? Who's wrong in this situation? But it's never been a unhealthy banner. Like, me and him talk every day on what we can improve, what we can do better, how can we get our listeners more engaged, and that's kind of the thing that we've been doing so far.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. And as the adopted Veneri brother in the broadcast, I just want to say you guys have been doing a great job, man, and I'm stoked to be on board with y'all. But kind of want to go back to that line about seeing things from a higher perspective, and being able to call games from, up in the booth. You're able to see what the team looks like sometimes from a different vantage point from everybody else. And with that in mind, what would you say are some of our greatest needs as a team right now with a 0-3 start?
For me is one of the biggest things that stand out is obviously the quarterback play. And, granted, Braden Shager, he's been, dealing with a little injury. Joey Yellen hasn't looked comfortable in the offense so far. We're just speaking candidly, right? We knew this was going to be a transition year. 53 new players on the roster. We all get the song and dance. But execution, I don't think we've been executing at the level in which Coach Chang has, really had that expectation. And I think Coach Shu will tell you the same thing. And dissecting defenses, understanding where we need to go with the football. The quarterback play has been, that's kind of been the problem. Like, I guess you could say the problem, or not necessarily maybe a problem, but just something that needs to be fixed. And the only way to do that is just to get more comfortable. Get comfortable within the offense. And it's tough when you're running a zone read attack when you don't have running quarterbacks per se. Yeah. We have pocket passers, guys who can throw down the field. I think that's one of the big things offensively, Hunter. On the defensive side, I think we've been in position. I think the defense has probably taken bigger strides in. We got our first 2 sacks this week. I think we're in position. Look, Michigan just has superior athletes, and that's okay. That's okay, and I hope people understand that that's okay. But on the defensive side, I feel like, we're in position. I feel like we're in position. I think we could do a little bit better tackling wise, but that's kind of the biggest things that I've seen so far on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, people forget the last time we went to the Big House, we didn't even score a touchdown. So, some would say that was against their twos, it was against that, blah, blah, blah. We scored a touchdown in the Big House, which is against the number 4 team in the nation. So in some ways, I count that as a win. Even if we didn't win the game, that's a win for us. I kind of wanted to jump into quarterback play just for a second. We've talked about it a lot here on the show. And do you feel like we have a big enough sample size with guys like Yellen, guys like Shager, where, yes, I understand more reps will allow you to get more comfortable, but to what end is that comfortability that they don't give other guys in the depth chart a chance that might have some more versatility with their legs?
And you bring a great point, because I think with Joey Yellen, there is a sample size. You can't go 13 for 36 in a game and expect to be successful. You cannot throw 6 interceptions the week before. There's just little things like that where there's execution details that need to be executed, but we're not executing. And the sample size, I believe, is big enough where, look, there's no secret that Michigan, Western Kentucky, Vanderbilt they do not honor our quarterback in the zone read attack. I mean, if you know football 101 and you watch the game, the rush ends on every team that we play crash like crazy, do not respect the quarterback pool, and we haven't. I don't think we've even pulled one in the 3 games. So does Cam Cooper, have an opportunity to, or a guy like Armani Eden who has legs, has a decent arm? I'm a believer in this, and I'm not saying I'm not a college coach, so I don't understand this. Some kids are just gamers. Gamers can be found. Diamonds in the rough can be found. You never know, and that's the thing that happens. Like, Sean Withy Allen many years ago that came in. Tyler Gronke, who was like, he's all right. He's kind of small. He comes in. Jason Wielden, when he replaced Timmy Chang, when he had a tough game against Alabama, comes
Sean
in
Schroeder.
and we beat Alabama. Sean Schroeder, a guy that you never know unless you give them the opportunity or shot. So I say, at this point, it's a season in which we're looking to be where we're at. Like, where are we? And we just don't have an offensive identity 3 games in. Are we a running team? Are we a passing team? Are we a zone read team? Are we a play action team? So it's just some things that I know this coaching staff will kind of address moving forward as we get closer into Mountain West play.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on a lot of those comments, especially from the quarterback position. Kind of curious how they treat the next 2 weeks as well, which obviously are much more winnable games. One thing that Hunter and I had talked about, Mark, is I'm with you guys, right? There's no outside run threat really when it comes to the quarterbacks that we've seen in the ball game. And I would argue that there's not a huge outside run threat when either Dedrick Parson or Najee Bryant-Lele are in there. Not that those guys aren't good, because we've seen that. We've seen their ability to run the football, but they're between the tackles runners, right? And they aren't helped out by the fact that there's no quarterback threat. But what we've seen from these 2 freshmen in Tylan Hines and Jordan Johnson, they bring a perimeter run game to it. And you see the running game, and I at least in my opinion, kind of open up a little bit. Things open up a little bit because those rush ends can't get crashing down. They've got to respect the fact that, hey, they can take it around tackle. They can maybe bounce something outside. Kind of curious what your perspective was being there in person, seeing those 2 get maybe as much run as we've seen so far through the 3 games, and obviously Hines getting the touchdown run.
Well, with the thing about the RPO game, Jordan, and you bring up a great point with the RPO game, when a quarterback is turning and looking at rush end coming through and just giving it off, Dedrick Parson and Najee Bryant-Lele is getting smashed in the backfield. I mean, there's no secret with pulling it. Now, if we were, say, like in a run and shoot type of scheme or a shotgun set where we're just handing it off, boom, we go zone read type of attack, or we're hitting the outside right away with guys like Tylan Hines and Jordan Johnson, they offer the ability to make a one cut and go. And they got that speed that can really change the dynamic of things. Dedrick Parson and Najee Bryant-Lele, I think, can offer that. But it all starts with scheme in the sense that if we're running RPO, we got to have the ability to pull the football. And if you don't, then that run game is not going to have that type of attack. It's not. And you're not going to get, I think we average about 2.3 yards per carry. It's way too much pressure. And talk about that. The O-line probably played their best game in protection, by the way. I want to throw that out there. I talked a lot about that in the broadcast. Our O-line played very well against one of the top pass rushing attacks in the country and defenses in the country. They played excellent.
1 sack, right? 1 sack in 37 technically pass attempts with the jump pass that they threw in there, but 1 sack, yeah. And so I think the offensive line, great bounce back game for them. I agree with you there on after the Western Kentucky game was a little dicey. I'm kind of curious, while we're kind of on the topic of last week, maybe before we move on to some more of the football discussion with Hunter here. Tell us about the Big House, man. What's that place like?
The Big House is the Big House. And it's crazy. As if you look at it from the outside, the stadium is actually not that big outside. But when
it's like sunken in, right?
Right. So the architects built it in the sense that it is sunken in, but it allows you to keep stacking if they wanted to build up for the stadium. But so when you go in, it's literally like a bowl, and then you look down, and we're in the press box where that's kind of where the level of in which the stadium view is looking like. So when you go to the press box, there's not that much height above it, I guess you could say. And then when you get to the press box and you're looking down, it's like, oh my God. Like, and the crazy part too is like we have our earphones in. Eric Hood, our engineer, he's the best in the biz. We have our earphones on. John and I can have a regular conversation. We take off our headsets and you can't even hear each other from like 3 feet away. It's deafening, but there's just a lot of history in there. You know, you think of the Desmond Howards, Charles Woodson, Tom Brady. I met the color guy on the other side for the radio broadcast. It was his tight end, Tom Brady's tight end. Great conversation piece with him too as well. We were talking, and you just look down in the field and it's history. You know, we're in the big house, and you just get goosebumps all over the place. It's, man, I took so much video and so many cameras, Jordan and Hunter, that I'll have a lifetime of memories in the big house.
Yeah, man, that's pretty awesome. What do you think are the healthy expectations heading into this week against Duquesne? Do you think it's something where we can establish our will, or it's something that we're going to need to find our identity to try to get it done and get a W on the board?
I think this is just a game in which these boys got to find the will, the passion. I don't even care what the point spread is. I don't care what the line is. I don't care how bad we beat them. We just need a W. Like, really, that's that. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be anything other than a win come Saturday night. And yes, of course, we'd like to see our offensive identity. Would I like us to throw the ball more? Probably. Do I want to? The crazy part is we actually threw more than we ran the ball, but it doesn't feel that way in which it comes to down and down situations. So it's a will game. Like you said, these next 2 games are very winnable games going into conference. And right now the conference is not as stacked up to be it's a down year, you could say, for the conference per se. So, if Hawaii can clean things up in the next 2 weeks in non-conference games, hey, maybe we got a fighting chance, and I'm optimistic as a fan. Hey, 6-7, 5-8, maybe even above 500. Can we get there? Yeah, it's possible. I think it is. You win the next 2 games, 5-3 in conference. Hey, guess what? We're going bowling Christmas Eve. So that's kind of how you got to play it, I think, from here on out. And I think Coach Chang knows that.
Yeah, we've been talking about this idea of it's almost a tale of 2 seasons, before conference and after conference. And I'm really interested to see some leaders emerge in these next couple of weeks. It kind of feels like guys are a little dinged up, and the will of the team is kind of in question right now. But even kind of riding the coattails of a touchdown at the big house, perhaps that could be something to kind of inspire these guys moving forward. What do you think about that?
I think from just kind of getting, and we got to charter the flight back from Michigan, and the boys were in good spirits. There's no pointing the finger. We have a pretty good rapport with the coaching staff, John and I, and there was really, I can tell you, the boys are in good spirits. I think they understand where they're at. I think they understand that it was an opportunity to see, hey, this is the best competition that we're going to face all year. Where do we stack up? Hey, you got to look at positives. Offensive line played well. Defense is in position. Granted, just superior athletes at this point. Yes, we got to get better on the offensive side, both in what our identity is and whatnot. But yeah, I think, Hunter, you said it, tale of 2 seasons. Yeah. And this is the start of the new season. So think about this. Can 7-3 be achievable? If you really ask yourself, look down the schedule, can 7-3 be achievable in the next 10 games? Can we be 7-3? I think some people would say probably not. I would say it's possible if we can find who we are and what we are. And it starts against Duquesne this Saturday.
Yeah. Kind of in the same vein of newness and tale of two seasons. This is the start of a new season for you and John Veneri with Pauhana with the Veneri brothers. Today, as we record this Wednesday at 8:54 in the morning, I think we're releasing a new episode of that. Maybe talk us through this new episode of Pauhana.
Well, the new episode of Pauhana, we got this guy named Hunter Hughes. He's an adopted brother of ours. No, but this new episode is going to be fantastic. We were at Dave & Buster's. Hunter, you joined us. John had some obligations, and you're an adopted Veneri at this point. For our listeners out there, he comes out Thursday. Okay, got it. Thursday at 3 p.m. Got it. Thank you, Jared. But hey, the cool part is Hunter changed his name. If people don't know this now, he's Hunter Veneri Hughes. And his and Jordan, you'll like this too. His Hawaiian name is Kainoa. So that's kind of what we figured out. We figured that out moving forward. But with Pauhana with the Veneri brothers, has been fun with John. Hunter joined us on the episode. Hunter and I played a few games against each other. We're not going to tell you who wins. We'll let you know when you watch Pauhana, but with the Veneri brothers. But it was really good, so I enjoy it.
That's a good little tease right there. That's a good little tease. So yeah, make sure you join John, Mark, and Kainoa and Veneri Hughes on the on Pauhana with the Veneri brothers. That's hilarious. I love it. I love it. No, it's been good episodes, and it's like, I'm just jealous, okay? Because it's like you put the Veneri brothers in front of food and maybe some beverage, and it's just like gold. It's gold. Whether it's that, whether it's Sam Choi's involved, it's just I'm just envious. I'm just envious of all these fun activities you guys get to do. And in no way am I pining here, but no, I think it's great. I also think it really is great content because you get you two guys together, whoever the guest is, and this week it happens to be, some guy named Hunter. I think it's always fun. So I just wish you guys continued success, Mark. You yourself, as well as your brother John, and we'll be tuning in on Saturday. We'll be tuning in tomorrow when it drops as well for the Veneri brothers Pauhana session. You can never go wrong with that. So my man, thanks a lot for joining us. We could talk football for hours.
Yes,
and I'm sure we'll get you on sooner rather than later again to discuss as this season unfolds.
Hey, I appreciate it, Jordan, Hunter. Jordan, hey, we're taking those adoption papers. You'll get full reins on whatever you want. You can come and join us for some good food, good grinds. Anytime, you are always welcome, my brother. I really appreciate it, guys. And hey, one more thing, before we go, let's stay positive. I think that's the best thing. Let's stay positive towards this University of Hawaii football team. I think Coach Chang is, he's going to get this ship turned around. I think we, as a fan base, and obviously non-biased because we're all supportive as radio content broadcasters, we trust the process. It's going to be a process. Give it time, and hey, I'm excited. Go Bows, and love the podcast. Tune in all the time. Jordan, Hunter, continued success and great work.
Right on, Mark. Thanks a lot, brother.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, man.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, big thanks to Mark for jumping on the show. Always fun to talk story with him. Hunter gets to do it here virtually on Zoom as we record this. He gets to join them at all these different establishments. You got to go Pauhana with the Veneri brothers, living the good life, man. But big thanks to Mark. And be sure to catch Hunter, and John on the broadcast this Saturday for Duquesne and the University of Hawaii right here on ESPN Honolulu. All right, speaking of the Dukes, Hunter, coming to town out of Pittsburgh, 1-2 so far this season, lost 47-7 at Florida State. I think it was like 26-0 at halftime, played the Seminoles decently tough, at least early on. And then actually kind of got run over, like literally against Youngstown State, which is always a tough FCS school. They ran for a ton of over 260, I think it was, against Duquesne. And then last week bounced back, defeating NAIA Thomas More 34-14. They begin Northeast Conference play following a bye next week This is a good program. A lot of people remember them from 2018, right? When they came down to Aloha Stadium, actually led it 14-0 over the University of Hawaii before Cole McDonald throws 5 touchdown passes, and they beat them 42-21. First and only meeting between the Dukes and the Rainbow Warriors. But again, this 7 straight winning seasons for Duquesne. Just missed out on the FCS playoffs last year. Came in second, a game back in the Northeast Conference race. Went 5-2 in conference, 7-3 overall, including a win at Ohio University, the Bobcats, right out of the MAC. The first NEC school to ever beat an FBS team. That was just last year. Continuity, like this is the case study for it. Duquesne, Jerry Schmidt, their head coach, is in his 18th season. They've got some new faces on the defensive side of the football, guys that have been there only 3-4 years, which at a lot of places is a lot of continuity this year. But on offense, their OC, Anthony Dory, has been there for 7 years. They've got an O-line coach who's been there for 15 years, which is always kind of where I look. It's like, all right, if they got stability up front, you're usually going to be a program that is consistently pretty competitive. And I think that's what we've got with Duquesne. And so they come in, they're no slouch. And again, they've got a lot of continuity. They've got a lot of familiarity on that sideline. And so for a Hawaii team that has none of that, this is a game that they should win. This is a game that you probably could argue they need to win. And what do you kind of expect to unfold this weekend, Hunter?
I'm actually thankful that we're going into this game 0-3. As much as some would say that's a bad thing, in my experience, with all my time around anytime we have an FCS school come into town or, a school like Duquesne, you can almost take the week of practice off because you feel like, okay, we're better. We don't really have to take this one as seriously. No, we have to take this one very, very seriously this week. Across the board, this is this team's opportunity to get a win on the board, and we have to get it done on all facets of the football. So you bring it up there. They go about their business. They're no slouch. That they kind of hit us in the mouth back in 2018 before we kind of woke up and said, okay, we better handle business. And that's my message to the team this week is, hey, if we get up on these guys, all love to Duquesne, put your foot on their throat in all aspects of this. This is our chance to kind of establish what type of a team we're going to be this year.
Yeah, an opportunity to get right. Duquesne led by their quarterback, Joe Mishler. Abdul-Janae is one of their best wide receivers. They've got a nice little running back core with Billy Lucas and DeMarcus Ware. Not that DeMarcus Ware, but, the different DeMarcus Ware there. Hawaii, somewhere between 6.5 point to 13.5 point favorites, depending on where you look. It's a little wonky when University of Hawaii usually plays one of these FCS teams early in the season. Most of the mainstream books won't have anything up until later in the week as they get closer to game time. Expect Hawaii to be somewhere between probably a 7 and 10 point favorite by the time all is said and done towards the end of the week, which isn't a huge number considering, it's a 1AA team coming in. One thing that appears to be the same for Hawaii is the starting quarterback. Yesterday to the gathered media, Coach Timmy Chang saying that Joe Yellen is going to be the quarterback once again. Braden Shiger still banged up. He said to the media, quote, he thinks that Joey played good enough to get the start again this week. And he went on to say, we showed as a team some resilience in the second half. He made some good throws. There were some throws he probably wished he could have back, but I think he deserves to start this next coming game. End quote. For the season, Yellen, as we mentioned, 13 of 36 against Michigan. For the season, he's 27 for 67. That's a 40% completion percentage with the 1 interception and no touchdowns. Hawaii as a team hasn't thrown a touchdown pass through 3 games. So it's Yellen again. Hunter, we talked a little bit about this with Mark in terms of, what the position has been so far, what they need out of that position as well. Just kind of reading between the lines, just observing the Michigan game, I would imagine if we didn't see Jake Farrell or Armani Eden in that game, it would take a lot to see them at any point, going forward. So I'd imagine, move those chess pieces off the board. It's probably, the 3 that we thought coming into the season. in terms of Shager, Yellen, and Cam Cooper, maybe once he gets back healthy as well. But you've got two of those three guys banged up. And so whether it was performing well enough for Joey Yellen or the fact that, hey, the other two guys are hurt, so that's who you're rolling with anyway. It appears to be that it will be Joey Yellen once again this Saturday against Duquesne.
Yeah, I mean, this is your opportunity, big man. This is me communicating to Joey, to go out and prove that you're the guy. Feel like the stars have kind of aligned, that the coaches obviously believe in you with not fantastic numbers. So go out there and put this team on your back, man. He comes from Pittsburgh. This team's coming from Pittsburgh as well. Go do what you're supposed to do. I would love to just see an explosive game from our offense, full of dynamic play calling and getting a lot of guys in there, which we've mentioned before, Jordan, is kind of what we need to do as an offense if we're going to commit to playing with a lot of guys, getting a lot of fresh legs in there, a lot of different looks. Then we have to throw a little bit of spice and versatility in our play calling as well to kind of keep them on their toes. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be another good opportunity for him to try and really kind of take the reins of that job. As we transition into kind of the ending portion of the pod here, big shout out to everybody who dropped us a line on the comments. A lot of comments about the quarterback position. I think we addressed a lot of those questions and whatnot throughout the course of this podcast. Al from VA keeping us updated as usual on some of the old faces and new places around the country as they go throughout. So again, always appreciate everybody dropping us a comment, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, any of the other social platforms as well. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate your feedback as usual. All right, quick overtime here. A fun little note. Kahuku at St. John's Bosco this weekend up in California. That's a 4:30 p.m. Hawaii start time on Saturday. So you can kind of watch that and then lead right into the UH football game on Saturday. That'll be broadcast on Bally Sports SoCal. They used to be like Fox Sports West, where we used to find those channels. It's what the Angels and Ducks are on. I'm sure a lot of the sports fans out there know exactly which channels we're talking about. Interestingly enough, Friday night, actually, Milani plays Mater Dei at Bosco on Friday night. And depending what poll you look at, Mater Dei and Bosco, 1 and 2 in the country. So that's big time. That's big time and a tremendous opportunity, especially for Kahuku, who's still undefeated here. A chance to play St. John Bosco. So I just wanted to point that out for some football fans out there that I'm sure will be, whether you're at Ching or if you're not one of the lucky 9,000 to get into the building. If you're at home, you've got the potluck ready. You got the garage or the patio set up to check that out while you get ready for UH football. Yeah, there will be hopefully some future Rainbow Warriors playing in that game, on maybe both sidelines. So we'll see. But just a little quick overtime there. Any final thoughts, Hunter, as we wrap this one up?
Well, I don't know how many times I'm going to get to say this on this show, that the Bears are 1-0, Jordan.
That's right.
We took care of business against
in a monsoon.
The Niners, man, at home. Didn't look like old Nick Bosa over on the edge was too happy about the old rain. There were a couple of clips of him kind of shivering in the tunnel, not wanting to get out there and get after it. But the Bears are 1-0, and I mean, I struggle so bad, Jordan, to have optimism because I know Aaron Rodgers is going to beat us like he always does. But as a fellow Bear fan, enjoy this with me, man. We're 1-0.
Oh, heck yeah. We're 1-0, and Rodgers is 0-1, baby. The Packers, losers over the weekend. So even sweeter. We know there are 18 more weeks left in the season, and just let us enjoy this while we can. Right. Let us relish in it. This may be the high point. This may be the high point of the year. But, yeah, nice win for Justin Fields and the boys there. All right. Big thanks to you, Hunter. Big thanks to Jaron on the controls. Mahalo to Mark Veneri as well for joining us on the pod. Fun conversation with him. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. And Shaka's out to Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA, Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill as well, proud sponsors of Hawaii Football Now. This has been episode 55. We'll see you next week, everybody, and we'll see you down at the field on Saturday for Hawaii and Duquesne. Again, 6 p.m., the usual kickoff time. You can catch it right here on ESPN Honolulu and on TV on Spectrum Sports. Have a great weekend, everybody. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.